You ever notice how like one sentence can have a totally different vibe, like based on how someone says it? I was at this play the other night, and there was this moment when the actor just says, "You came back."
Okay.
Simple.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But the way he delivered it, his voice shot up at the end. And it wasn't just surprise. It was this whole mix of relief, disbelief, like he couldn't believe his eyes. It was incredible.
Wow.
The whole scene shifted just from his intonation. It really got me thinking about how much we can level up our own English fluency by tapping into that same power. Now, you're probably already killing it with your vocab and grammar.
Right.
Those are the building blocks for sure.
Yeah.
But what if I told you there's this next level? Like you've got the words, but now it's about making them really sing. And that's where we're diving in today. Intonation and rhythm.
What's fascinating about this is that you've hit on something so crucial that often gets missed.
Right.
It's not just what you say, but the how.
Oh, I like that.
Those elements, intonation and rhythm, they're like the secret sauce to sounding truly natural.
Oh?
Like you were born speaking English.
Okay, so let's break this down. For those hearing intonation and rhythm in terms of English, could you give us the lowdown on what they actually are?
Absolutely. Let's start with intonation. Think of this as the music of your voice, how your pitch rises and falls as you speak, like the melody of a sentence.
So kind of how a song has high notes and low notes.
Yeah.
And that's what gives it that emotional punch.
Exactly. And just like with music, different intonation patterns completely change the meaning of what we're saying. There are three main types we use in English: rising, falling, and rise-fall.
Okay.
If you're enjoying this podcast, don't forget to like the video. Share it with friends who might find it helpful. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss our next video. Let us know in the comments what topic you'd like to hear.
Rising intonation is what we often use for yes-no questions like you're curious, searching for an answer. Are you coming to the party? Notice how your voice naturally goes up at the end on party.
And then falling intonation is the opposite.
Precisely. Falling intonation is what gives that sense of finality. We use it for statements or commands, like when you're stating a fact, she's coming tomorrow. You'd naturally drop your voice at the end.
Okay, that makes sense. But rise fall, that sounds like a whole other animal.
It's not as complicated as it sounds. Think of it like this. It's how we emphasize a word or phrase to show surprise or excitement. Like if you just found out your favorite band was in town, you might say, no way. Your voice would start high and then fall, right?
Oh, totally. It's like when you want to add that extra oomph to what you're saying. So that's intonation, the music of our voice. What about rhythm? Is that more about the beat?
You got it. Rhythm is all about the pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables in English. And here's the thing. English is a stress-timed language.
Yeah.
What that means is we naturally emphasize certain syllables in a word or sentence, giving them a bit more oomph while others are kind of rushed over.
So not every syllable gets the same amount of airtime, like a metronome ticking away.
Right. It's more like, remember we were talking about music. Think about your favorite tune.
Okay.
There are natural places where the beat hits harder, right? Where a certain instrument gets louder or the singer belts it out. Same thing with English. Take a phrase like, I'm going to the store. We naturally hit going and store harder, making the other syllables less important.
Wow. I'm realizing I never consciously thought about the rhythm of English before, but now it seems so obvious.
And that's just it. It's so ingrained in native speakers that we don't even realize we're doing it.
Right.
But once you start paying attention to it, it unlocks a whole new level of understanding of how English flows. It's like you're not just speaking the words, you're feeling the music of the language.
I like that. Okay. Mind blown. I'm getting this whole new appreciation for how English actually works. But for someone listening who might be thinking, why should I care about all this technical stuff? What's the big payoff? Why does mastering intonation and rhythm really matter in the grand scheme of speaking English fluently?
I love that you're asking that because it gets to the heart of why we're even talking about this. You see, mastering these things, it isn't just about sounding a little more polished. It's about unlocking this whole other level of fluency and confidence. It's about connecting with people on a deeper level. Take intonation, for instance. It lets you infuse your personality into your speech. Add those little nuances that make you, well, you. Like you can nail a sarcastic comment or let your excitement shine through, all through your voice.
It's like you're not just reading the words off a page anymore. You're feeling them. You're bringing them to life.
Exactly. And when you get that rhythm down, you start to sound so incredibly natural, people might actually think you've been speaking English your whole life.
Wow.
It's like having that natural flow, that effortless way of speaking that makes people want to lean in and listen.
Yeah.
But it goes even deeper than that. Think about a time when you were in a fast-paced conversation, maybe with native speakers. You know how it can be hard to keep up, right?
Oh, tell me about it. I've been there, definitely. It's like everyone else is on this high-speed train and I'm stuck at the station.
Exactly. But here's the thing. When you understand the music and rhythm of English, you start to pick up on those subtle cues that tell you what's important. You start to hear the stressed words and phrases, the pauses, the changes in intonation. It actually helps you understand faster and be more present in those conversations.
Wow, that's huge. I never thought about it that way, but it makes so much sense. And I know a lot of us, myself included, sometimes feel self-conscious about our accent or worried about making mistakes. It can be intimidating.
Absolutely. It's a common concern. But what's so amazing about focusing on intonation and rhythm is that you naturally start to sound more fluent and confident, even if you're still working on other aspects of your English.
Wow, cool.
It's like you're learning the secret handshake to fluency, and suddenly you're in the club.
That's a great analogy. So it's not about erasing your accent or speaking perfectly. It's about adding this layer of authenticity and expression that makes your English really shine through.
Precisely. It's about embracing your own voice while still being understood. And the best part, anyone can improve their intonation and rhythm with a bit of practice.
Okay, so let's get practical. I know our listeners are all about those actionable tips. What are some things people can start doing today to level up their intonation and rhythm game? What worked for you?
Well, one of the simplest but most powerful things is to become an active listener. Pay close attention to how native speakers talk, whether it's in movies, podcasts, audiobooks, or even just everyday conversations. Don't just listen to what they're saying, but how they're saying it.
You know, that reminds me of this technique I've been trying called shadowing. Have you heard of it? It's where you listen to a short audio clip, like a few sentences from a podcast or a movie, and you try to repeat it exactly as you hear it, matching the intonation and rhythm. It felt so awkward at first, like I was just mimicking someone, but it's been amazing for training my ear and my mouth to work together.
Shadowing is fantastic. It really helps you internalize those subtle nuances of the language. Another helpful tip is to start small. Don't try to tackle Shakespeare right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Focus on mastering short phrases with one type of intonation at a time.
That makes sense. It's like building those muscle memory reps one step at a time.
Right. You could try saying good morning with both rising and falling intonation. Notice how the meaning shifts just by changing your pitch. It's about laying those foundational bricks.
And once you've got those basic intonation patterns down, then you can start layering in the rhythm. Which, speaking of, you had this really cool exercise for that.
Oh, right. One of my favorite ways to practice rhythm is surprisingly physical. Remember how we were talking about English being a stress-timed language? Well, a fun way to really feel that stress is to clap your hands or tap your foot along with the stressed syllables as you speak.
I love that. It's like turning English practice into a mini dance party.
Exactly. You don't need to go full-on dance mode, but even a gentle tap or snap can make a difference. It helps your body internalize that natural rhythm.
And speaking of practice, one of the most readily available tools is literally right there with us all the time, our own voices. I was just thinking we can listen back to how we sound, although I have to admit, hitting that record button always feels a little weird to me.
I totally get it. It can feel strange hearing your own voice.
Yeah.
But think of it this way. It's like having a personal language coach who's always there to give you honest feedback, no judgment.
Right.
Recording yourself lets you hear your intonation and rhythm from a fresh perspective. You might even be surprised by what you hear.
It's so true. We can get stuck in our heads thinking we sound a certain way, and then you hear the recording and they're like, wait, is that really me?
So you're saying we should embrace our inner critic, in a good way, of course, and use those recordings as a tool for growth.
Exactly. And the beauty is those recordings are just for you, your own personal feedback loop.
Yeah.
You can pinpoint exactly what you want to improve, whether it's nailing a specific intonation pattern or smoothing out your rhythm and practice until you're satisfied. It's like having those personalized notes, except it's your voice, and you don't have to wait for a teacher to hand them back. And of course, we can't forget about our trusty sidekick in all of this technology.
Absolutely. There's a whole world of language learning apps out there these days, and some are specifically designed to help with pronunciation, intonation, and rhythm.
Right. In fact, we came across some cool ones in our research. There's one called ELSA that uses AI to give you real-time feedback on your pronunciation.
Oh, wow.
Talk about instant gratification. And then there's Fluent U, which uses authentic videos like movie clips and music videos to help you pick up natural intonation and rhythm.
Yeah.
I love that it's learning through entertainment.
Those are both excellent resources. Technology can be a game changer for this kind of targeted practice. It's like having a pronunciation coach in your pocket, available 24/7.
It's amazing how far we've come with language learning tools.
Mm-hmm.
So we've covered a lot of ground today. We've unpacked what intonation and rhythm are, why they're crucial for unlocking true fluency, and even equipped you with some practical tips and tools to start practicing. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left with this thought. You mentioned earlier that intonation and rhythm are like the secret sauce of fluency.
Right.
But it makes me wonder, what other subtle ingredients go into this recipe for effortless communication? What else is there to discover?
That's such a great question to end on. It's like we've opened this door to a whole new level of fluency, but it doesn't stop with intonation and rhythm. They're just the beginning. As you continue your English journey, pay attention to those nonverbal cues, those things beyond the words themselves. How do people use body language, facial expressions, even the pauses, the hesitations? They all add flavor to communication. It's like becoming a language detective, noticing those subtle clues that truly bring conversation to life.
I love that analogy. So it's not just about the words we say, but how we say them. It's about the whole package. It's about being present, being aware, and embracing all the nuances that make language so fascinating. Well, there you have it. You're now armed with a whole new understanding of intonation and rhythm, and hopefully you're feeling inspired to put it all into practice. Remember, fluency isn't about perfection. It's about expressing yourself confidently and connecting with others in a meaningful way.